Larry tried to kill me.
Yeah. I was so thoroughly disgusted.
I mean, think about it. Why does it make you special to do what you do?
Packers jumping around. They rush 4. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. Elway can run inside the 10. Head first. He dives off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
There's also Brian Clady and Bob Miller. Third and long 3. Going deep. Oh, and he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown.
Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Down at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him free to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome to the 5280 podcast on the MHRT network. I am Mundungus Creevey, joined as always by my co-host Glenn Hauser, Mr. Boggins, and Cameron Parker. And we come to you after a very, very confusing game on Sunday because now I don't know what in God's name I'm supposed to expect for the rest of the season.
Well, I was gonna say we sort of called it, didn't we? Or not like maybe not like a win, but like we mentioned on like Tuesday, like that this would be last Tuesday, that it'd be quite weird if, you know, the Broncos had maybe their best game of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. And it started out, you know, par for the course, and then yeah.
It's I mean, I kind of expected it. I was just like, you know, it's always a good game between the Broncos and the Chiefs, and we just don't win. that's just how it goes. It's always went. The last 7 years, I don't know. I've lost track at this point. When they start bringing up that, well, the Broncos have lost this number of the last time playing, like I'm just like, just throw it into a pile. You know what I mean? I don't really care anymore. However, it was nice to kind of see, because I personally was helping a friend move during this, and I was like happy and sad about that. Like I wanted to watch the Broncos, but at the same time, I was like, I don't want to watch the Broncos lose. And then I keep getting, you know, tweets about the Broncos are actually doing something. I'm like, oh, well, of course, when I'm helping a friend move, the Broncos decide to actually do something. I got a text from my friend early in the game, right after the Russell pick. He's a Seahawk fan, and he's like, bro, what is wrong with Russell Wilson? Like, there is something wrong with Russell Wilson. And I was like, yeah, man, it's not great. And then after that, it seemed like he woke up a little bit, which was nice. But all in all, another loss, you know, and now the Seahawks sit at number 2 overall. It's just like, what a weird place to be.
Obviously, we're going to hit more into this in a second, but I did want to get that question out of the way first. That Russell Wilson pick 6, was that a Wilson at fault, or was that a really good defensive play?
Both?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know what Wilson could have done different to avoid that. Like, it's stand on a box. Like, what else did you want to do?
I mean, quarterback wise, you probably don't make the play, but at the same time, it's like, you know, that felt more like a great play by William Gay than anything. And I think, and that's something that Charles Davis mentioned, is that, you know, that was a pretty athletic play by Willie Davis, and how he was able to reach his arm out and tap it, and basically, you know, basically make the play himself. So, but I mean, still, I to put the blame on Wilson, you can't make a throw like that.
It wouldn't be a Broncos Chiefs game if the Chiefs didn't score a defensive touchdown. So we had to get it out of the way early.
Wasn't Sorensen though.
No,
Right?
And it wasn't Melvin.
It wasn't Melvin. Yeah, I mean,
I was surprised he didn't play though. Actually, I thought I
forgot about that. Yeah, I legit forgot about Melvin Gordon. I think it was a little. Yeah, it was a little of both. Like, would you have hoped that Russell maybe would have processed a little quicker to throw it maybe at his feet instead? Maybe, but it was a really, really good play. And I don't. It looks worse for Russell Wilson, that's for sure. Like watching it as a fan, you're just like, my guy, what are you doing? But at the same time,
it was definitely a tale of two cities with Russ in that game, especially on Twitter. Like after that play, it was just the most toxic place that he could have ever thought to go. And then once the comeback started, and he was really at the forefront of that happening, at least on the offensive side. I mean, the defense, we got some really good interceptions, but people were, kind of coming around as far as, maybe this guy still has it in his legs. Maybe he was hurt, there was a little bit more positivity. And on a personal level, I get pretty amped up during the games, pretty antsy a little bit. And normally, an exciting, tense time, I'll stand up, I'll kind of pace around, do the, like in the room that I'm watching the game. And I haven't done that once this year. And actually that happened last Sunday because, you really felt like something special could occur. And the fact that they got back to, to the 34-28 or 27-21 at the time, when Russ was still in the game. I'm hoping that this is a precursor to the future when we have a healthier team.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few things that helped jumpstart that comeback, and obviously, it was the first interception, I should say, by Josie Jewell, and then the ridiculous interception, which in real time looked incomplete, by Pat Surtain, and then I don't condone Jerry Jeudy, losing it, I don't condone it at all. But it definitely sparked the offense. And, I actually tweeted it sort of reminded me a little bit of when he lost his cool in the Chargers game, and look what happened. I mean, the Broncos went and actually beat the Chargers. And so in both cases where Jeudy has truly just lost his control on the field, it's resulted in a Denver Broncos comeback to a certain degree, one resulting in a win, obviously in a loss, but, and it even, jump-started himself and Russell Wilson being on the same page and seeing, a game that, we haven't seen really since the late Demaryius Thomas, which is, brings a tear to your eye based on the overall weekend that was last weekend. But we all needed it. The Broncos offense needed it. And to at least get out of the hole. It's not going to, erase a lot of what's happened this season, but it was great to quite literally see Russ play the best game that he's had all year, and quite literally lay his entire body on the line for his team and unfortunately get injured in the process.
So go ahead.
The whole Jerry Jeudy thing is rough because you've seen it a lot through like his career with the Broncos so far, where he even like dropped passes when you can tell he's just been like insanely frustrated, and he kind of just like flails, and it's just like that's something he really needs to try and rein in, because that can affect him both like when it has to do with the ref, and then also just like his mindset of just like the more he lets his emotions affect him, the potentially worse he plays. Like that insane, I forget which game was that against the Chargers where he had all those drops, like 5 drops in the game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That was like he got in his head so much, it just kept happening. And that's something you you have to, what they say, have the memory of a goldfish. Like
Yeah.
you have to completely forget and move forward. And it just seemed like that.
Who says that?
Huh? Then,
Your guy.
but it like seems like it really affected him, and that's not something that can keep happening.
Well, and along with Jerry Jeudy having that breakout game, I mean, we saw a lot of different things in this game. I mean, you're seeing a lot more of Russ moving around the pocket, running the ball. We saw more focus on at the beginning, Mike Boone until he got hurt, and then you saw a lot more of Marlon Mack than you did of Latavius Murray. Is the offense making a shift, or was this just something where it was like, this is the best fit against the Chiefs, we're going to do this, and then we're going to go back to what we were doing before against the Cardinals? Like, is that the offense we're going to expect moving forward, or was this a one-off?
I don't know. As strange as it sounds, based off the theme of this season, I actually give kudos to the overall play calling that we had seen. When they were able to turn that around, because there were moments where on those screenplays, I think at one point, and we'd seen a few times in the season where they would call a screenplay to Latavius Murray, and it was at like a weird moment where you're like, okay, they gave a screenplay to Latavius Murray when we had, maybe Boone at one point, or Marlon Mack, or just a wide receiving threat out of the backfield, and you give it to your bruiser, as a screenplay. But I felt like, especially the score right out of the half, which, by the way, from my own vantage point, it's like, I have no idea if they're going to score right out of half, but the fact they were able to pull that off and continue the momentum was a huge momentum shift for them. And so they called the screenplay at the right moment, and Russ made the perfect, throw and diagnosis on that screenplay. And then the rest was just Marlon Mack and, reading his blocking. And so I actually give a lot of
his balance.
Yeah, literally. And so I kind of give a lot of kudos to the new play caller, Clint Kubiak, for really calling a great game.
You know what else we saw, Mike? And in regards to the personnel, I think a lot of it is due to desperation. But I mean, there were a couple other things that really stood out. The fact that we had a rotation of three guys in Reisner's spot at left guard, starting the rookie who just was total fish out of water. But the other thing that kind of
future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You talking about Wattenberg?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
future Hall of Famer. What are you talking about?
So you had Wattenberg, Moody, and who was the third?
You did, baby. Huh?
I think
it was Moody,
Bailey?
Wattenberg, and who was the third?
Quinn Bailey. Yeah.
Bailey. Okay.
Yeah, and then we went for it on fourth down a lot more. This was the aggressiveness that I wish the Broncos had shown throughout the course of the season. We would have won extra games had we actually gone for things on 4th and 1.
At least that aggressive.
Yeah. If they had continued the punting, I would have lost my mind, because, at 3 and 9, down significant points in the current game, you got to be aggressive. You got to save face. And I think the team responded well to that. And I think that made a huge difference in their confidence and just even the outlook of the fans.
I also think that let's be honest, the defense still was the show, right? Like they were putting the offense in very good position. I think this was definitely a game for quadruple J, Josie Jewell and Jerry Jeudy. As far as like Josie Jewell's like alley-ooping for Jerry Jeudy to score, and I think the offense was good at executing. Yeah. Was very good at executing when they had to. Like I can't imagine if the defense would have done what they done what they did this, and then the Broncos offense not have scored. Like that would have been a huge ball buster. And so I think they did what they were supposed to do, and it was a lot better looking. I hope let's be honest, the best way to get through this disaster is for Russell Wilson to actually start playing well. Who knows when he'll play again? But let's hope that is good thing looking forward.
Yeah. I mean, there was a moment in that Chiefs game. Well, there was a moment after the Chiefs game where even Chiefs players were really wondering if Russ was going to come back, and if he did come back, they said themselves that it very well could have been a very different game if Russ was in that game, because they could just tell that the tide was turning and that, things were changing momentum-wise when Russ was really starting to heat up. So you could clearly kind of tell, maybe for the first time in quite a while, I mean, that the Chiefs were starting to feel at least some fear that they were going to lose that game against the Broncos, which was, again, something we could not have said many years prior.
Yeah,
Well, do you guys think?
Avatar wants to know if Russ is going to be playing on Sunday against the Cards.
I can't imagine, especially with Kyler being out. I'd be shocked if they had him playing this time. I mean, that look on his face was absolutely zombie.
Well, yeah, and then that little
golf ball size
swole mark on there.
Yeah,
but
he's doing well. I really don't see that happening.
Well, and other people are wondering, the season's over. We're not going to make the playoffs. Should we just not play him the rest of the year? And I don't think that's the thing.
No, I mean, it's not that we have a rookie quarterback as the backup and we need to get them some snaps and some experience. We have Brett Rippon. So, he's not the future quarterback of this team. But I did want to ask you guys if Russ had apologies to Coach Rippon. Do you think that had Russ not been injured, the Broncos would have taken the lead in that game? What's your feel?
Yes.
I will say that I think that the Broncos had a much better chance at winning the game if Russ was in that game for the full, ounce of that game. The Broncos would have had a much better chance winning that game. And I guess, yes, I think the Broncos would have won that game if Russ was still in that game.
I love Boggins' expression. It's like someone cooked fish in the microwave in the work break.
What a big ifs. It's kind of like that stat that was going around. If the Broncos scored 18 points, they'd win every. It's like that's.
But they did
completely different situation.
Yeah,
that changes everything. Sure. I think the Broncos had a better chance because I do think. Contrary to maybe popular consensus, Russell Wilson is in fact better than Brett Rippon.
Yeah. Well, and you look at it, and the first the games before all of this, we saw a one-dimensional Russell Wilson. Stood in the pocket, threw the ball, didn't want to run, and that's kind of what Rippon does. He's a pocket passing quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's not a quarterback that's going to get out and run for 1,000 yards. Whereas at the beginning of this game, you started to see old Russ, where he would get out and run and pick up first down with his legs. And so once Rippon came in, you started to see a more one-dimensional offense.
You know what I do like about Russell's play as of late is it really seems like he wants it now. It really seems like something snapped. And he is giving everything. He is – I don't know if it's necessarily if it's for the team or if it's for himself, but whatever it's for, I'm happy that things are. It just seems like you can just see it in his eyes. Things just look different. He is on the ropes and he is trying to give everything to get back.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of maybe some conspiracy of maybe it's just he finally got his mountain legs within him and he's finally gotten adjusted to. Life in Colorado and the Broncos in general. And now he's trying, to do what we've all been accustomed to seeing from Russ with mobility and playmaking and, stuff like that, or, not to play devil's advocate of, because I think at times I've been a Russ apologist, but maybe he is the problem and maybe he sees himself on the hot seat and, and he is playing for his job. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he's playing up to what we've truly seen from him in his career, So I will say I think it's definitely great to see, though. It is definitely great to see the Russ that we've been able to see, frankly, since week 1. I mean, yeah.
I would expect him back for Christmas, wouldn't you think? The national game against the Rams, Nickelodeon. I mean, I think he's got his kids. I just feel like it would play.
Are you sure you don't want to see Baker Mayfield versus Brett Rippon on Christmas? That's I can't wait to put that on TV with my family.
Yeah. I don't know, because like for me, it's like these next two games, the Cardinals and the Rams, these are the two games that we have, in my opinion, the best chance to win.
Oh yeah.
And like I understand, like we're not going to make the playoffs. It's kind of a lost season.
I just want
but at the same time, you still want to win games, right?
Yeah.
So
I just don't want the Seahawks to have the number 2 overall pick, because it just hurts my face.
And I don't want them to be like overly cautious with Russ like they've been with Gregory, because good Lord, he's been out 10 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I almost think like if he's close, if he's close but he passes concussion protocol, like let him play.
Boggins, I do feel for you as someone that lives in New England and has been here during the Patriots dynasty, and would have people showing up to my office door at work and reminding me that that they won yet another Super Bowl. I can feel your pain living in Seattle and having to deal with this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point though, it's kind of more like, at first it was like I told you so. Now it's just like, yeah, buddy, I'm sorry. Like they actually have sympathy for me now, and it's just like, no, actually they have empathy for me now, because they don't know what it's like anymore.
But what's good is Gino's kind of fallen off a little bit, so that's good.
Sure, but they're
Sure.
it's just like, what happened?
Yeah. Did we get any update on Mike Boone's injury?
He's out for the year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm up for the moral victories, Boggins.
One of the other things I wanted to talk about, and we talked about it last week too, but Jewel and Singleton. Like Bree talked about them being the Bash brothers, and now I guess that's a thing on national media now, is that Jewel and Singleton are the Bash brothers.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Like national media said that now. Huh?
Yeah.
Did you see they showed up in matching Mighty Ducks jerseys together at the game last weekend? Did you see
No.
Maybe that's
I
where
thought
it
that
came
was
from.
someone else.
Wasn't that Josie and Singleton?
I saw that for another. I thought I saw that for like linemen. A bunch of lineman group for the Eagles were showing up in a bunch of Mighty Ducks gear. I thought
apparently Mighty Ducks jerseys are on clearance because everybody's buying Black Friday.
There's a new show back, so that's why.
But I think it's awesome to see. I mean, we talked a little bit about it last week, but I truly think that Alex Singleton, he really struggled in preseason, but like he's really emerged and clearly played for a much better contract than what he signed, with Denver. And and even then, like there was a point last year where we were kind of contemplating, what was the best duo, for that linebacker room when Jewel, was out, and and so it was Jonas Griffith and Baron Browning at one point, and or even Kenny Young at one point, like entering the mix of that. But now that you're seeing a combination where it's just it's like the yin and the yang, basically, they're just at the right place at the right time every single time between Alex Singleton and Jewel, that like they just feel like the right match and right pair with both of them, that I don't know if you want to break that up, long, or I don't want to say long term, but I mean, like for what you can have them together, you want to keep them intact as much as you can and keep that defense intact as much as you can.
Right. Well, and that's why I asked about Jonas Griffith when he comes back. Like, what does he get a spot back? Did Singleton play his way in? Like, what do we do with that?
No.
You think Jonas gets back?
Oh yeah, I think Jonas gets a spot back. Are you kidding me? I think that I honestly think the team loves him and has. I don't
he's
know why.
great.
And I also don't like, you want 3 backers because you want depth, so it'd be just an insanely solid rotation. Josie, I think, also has been very up and down. So we're kind of like 1 week he's not. It's kind of, I don't know, but I like the potential of Jonas Griffith, like athletically more than the others. And I do think that the team really does like Jonas Griffith. So I don't think any of them are going anywhere.
Like Cam mentions Kenny Young, and I just remember like our
hype.
just opinion last. Oh my gosh, the hype. We had him like Randy Gradishar. We were
Yeah.
so desperate for anybody in that position. We were like
and-
7 linebackers deep.
The thing that was so funny was also last year we also had a nosedive with Kenny Young because when they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles, which just ended up being no fluke, by the way, but like Jalen Hurts goes off on the run and Kenny Young is just minding his own business, and his back's turned to Jalen Hurts. Yeah,
They had
yeah.
teams literally scheme to Kenny Young. So I like the Chiefs. Just look directly at Kenny Young and we're like, I'm gonna come at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So let's take a quick look around the NFL, and then we'll kind of get into previewing the cards. First things first, and this is from college football. Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach has passed away at the age of 61. Everybody at MHRT wants to send their condolences to his family, friends, players that have played for him, anyone whose life he's had an impact on. Condolences, thoughts and prayers sent your way. Excellent head coach. Had a tenure at a couple different universities.
Yes.
Successful at every single one of them.
One of them being at Wazoo, UW's rival, and I will say right now, all the respect to that man. He was a great coach, very fun to listen to in interviews because he always said what was on his mind. He just kind of reminded you of that like hilarious grandpa that you just like you would just like elbow your cousin to go over and be like, go ask him this, just see what he says. Which, like, the media ended up doing. But yeah, it's a very, 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 very sad, and all the prayers up to his friends, family, and all those who have worked under and around him.
There was a cool story that surfaced that he had a player and he went to the player and told him he wasn't gonna play, but he offered him a job, as to start his coaching career, and the player left, but then changed his mind and came back the next day, and it was Lincoln Riley. Like that's pretty cool. And Wes Welker tweeted, "I'm saddened by the passing of Coach Leach today. My deepest condolences to his wife Sharon, his children, and grandkids. Football will not be the same without one of the originators of the air raid attack. Football meetings might be a little more on time." Which I love that little dig at the end.
Yeah, but I gotta say it was pretty great to see. Especially he did have a great social media presence. I mean, there was probably maybe 2 college coaches that had quite the presence on social media, and it's probably Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach is probably 2 of the better college coaches that use social media. But I mean, he really was a great coach. I obviously, me being a Nebraska fan and growing up with the Big 12, and seeing Mike Leach sort of, I should say, really being the architect, of the Texas Tech offense that you see now, it has been really incredible. I mean, he had some great offenses that were with that Texas Tech team and great college quarterbacks that, really maybe even translated even to the next level, or, a quarterback that went on to, go to Hawaii or even go to I want to say Cole Brennan, but like he was an architect of one of the highest scoring offenses, in college football. And so, yeah, he's definitely was a great offensive coach, great offensive mind, and an even better person. So, yeah, he will most definitely be missed.
In honor of Mike Leach, I threw out our candy corn today. So,
well, there you go.
Well, candy corn is trash anyway.
There you go.
It is.
So kind of moving into the NFL, and this is a topic that I kind of wanted to bring up, really doesn't have anything to do with the Broncos except for a potential draft pick. But the 49ers, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, or Jimmy G? Who's the starter moving forward, man?
You gotta go Trey. I mean, Brock Purdy played like solid, don't get me wrong, but like at the same time, you went third overall pick for Trey Lance. Like you have to see what you have there. You can't just like let it go. Like, and he was playing decently well before he went out. Like, obviously he was raw going into it. Everybody knew it. So I think you have to go with the value of a third overall draft pick. Obviously, the Jets aren't taking that advice, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, one of the things that, and we mentioned it, what was it, last week in terms of, whether the 49ers should have, or even the Broncos should have put a waiver claim in for Baker Mayfield, and I think that, there's probably, there's 2 points I think is true. And I think this is Trey Lance's team. He's the future, but this also further proves, that you can basically plug any quarterback within that system, and Kyle Shanahan's going to have that thing cooking with grease. I mean, like it is a fine oiled machine. But I will say what will probably throw a wrench into it is Jimmy Garoppolo's plans going forward for the 49ers. And I will say that, my early prediction for that following season is that Garoppolo will go to the Jets. But yeah, so I think that for Chuba Purdy, I think he's almost like entering the conversation to be like the backup to Trey Lance next year, because like he's playing so well that it's like you can't move on from him. You really can't move on from him for being Mr. Irrelevant. But yeah, it's Trey Lance's show though, and yeah, especially because you spent so much capital trading up for him, and he is the quarterback of the future.
Why would you get Garoppolo if you have Mike White?
Backup.
Ooh.
That's what I'm saying. Why would you pay for Jimmy Garoppolo when you could just have Mike White?
I don't know.
Where does Garoppolo go then?
I always thought he could potentially go to like Houston, or like depending on what they want to do with the first overall pick. The guess is that they take Young, but if they don't, then it's a possibility.
So not CJ Stroud first?
No.
That
he's fallen. He has a lot
he's
of
a good quarter, yeah.
A lot of statistics have come out where it have really kind of shot him down a bit. Actually, he's like 30% under, or he has a 30% completion percentage under pressure. Like and last year it was already questionable, and now it's even lower, so it's worse.
I'll say somebody's dinosaur is roaring in the background.
Is that Mario cutting up Coyote?
Yeah. Word of advice, don't say I will stab you on Twitter.
Don't do that. Don't do
to
that.
One of your best friends.
Yeah.
So kind of moving into next week with the matchup against the Cards, we actually lost 2 players. Moody got signed off the practice squad to the Raiders, and then the Broncos released McTelvin Najim. So he's no longer on the practice squad either. Those are names we both are familiar with. Moody just played 50-something snaps in the last game.
Was probably their best offensive lineman too. Yeah.
What was he really though?
Outside of not outside of minors, never outside of minors. Listen. This offensive line, y'all don't get too attached to it.
Let's talk about.
I think like the biggest thing that we'd have to get, like the biggest hit would be if we lost Dalton Reiser, and I don't know like play wise if it's, but like. As a community leader, as a leader on the Broncos, like I would hate to lose Dalton Reiser.
No, I completely agree. Like as a person, he is amazing, but he has not been great. And I fully expect him not to be on the team next year. Unfortunately, unless he hits free agency and comes back on a lesser contract, just because he loves Denver and wants to be here. He grew up in Colorado. Like I could completely see that. Could I see Dalton Reiser on the Broncos next year? Sure. If like that happens, I don't see him starting unless we are pretty desperate.
Didn't he just redo his contract or resign?
No, he's done. In fact, he was disappointed that they didn't talk contract during the bye. But Boggins, can you describe a situation like where Garrett Bowles would not be here next year? Like, what do you?
In all honesty, it would probably come down to the Broncos back office trying to recoup for the whole Russell Wilson thing that's going on and trying to restructure contracts. And I'm sure they will approach, or Peyton will approach a multitude of different players about restructuring, including most likely Garrett Bowles, who is also coming off of an injury. So it all comes down to whether or not he will be down for that. Like, will he restructure that if he is asked to do so? If he doesn't, then now we're in a different situation where we might be looking for 2 tackles and a left guard and a center, because I don't think Lloyd Cushenberry is also the future, and I don't think you are. I don't necessarily think that Glasgow is the answer at center as well. So, are you doing a full rebuild of your offensive line outside of Quinn Miners this next offseason? It's the legitimate possibility.
One of the
why would a
things
player
we talked about on the neighborhood on Sunday was, why haven't the Broncos gone after like J.C. Treader or one of the other centers that was Matt Paradis? Why didn't we go after one of them to bring in for the offensive line, especially with the struggles we've had all year?
I mean, to a certain degree, like, our offensive line was not that bad last year, and I think that, I think it's one of the driving points that, yes, the offensive line has played bad. Like, it's pathetic, but it's one of the points that, hiring Butch Berry, not to talk about the, obviously him as a person, but like him as a coach, like, it was a failure to hire Butch Berry and not retain Mike Munchak. It was a failure. And that's probably the point of all points, is that they didn't retain Mike Munchak. But, to your point though, like, the offensive line was playing well. I mean, and well enough that, like, for Russ's sake, when he was doing his homework, this was an appealing team, and the offensive line that the Broncos had completely regressed, Bowles being one of them. Even with the injury, he's regressed. And I think that that's one of the reasons why, when people talk either on social media or, with this Broncos offense, where do you see the most turnover as far as, starters? It's the offensive line, 115%, because you are talking about at least 3 starters on that offensive line. With it to about what Boggins was saying, center and left guard. And then, especially right tackle, which we all know has been maybe the biggest revolving door, even more so than quarterback lately for the Broncos.
So, Boggins, why would someone not restructure? Because they're not giving up money. They're just getting paid differently and getting paid money up front. Is there any reason somebody would say no?
It kind of depends on the structuring of it. That's a simple, I mean,
because they wouldn't ask Bowles to take a pay cut per se, right? Maybe.
Or and like, I know that you're getting it, like, depends on if you're restructuring, you may throw a lot of it into a signing bonus where it can be paid out, a certain for a longer distance and whatnot. But maybe that player doesn't want that. Maybe that player likes the structure of their contract because that's what they signed in the first place, and that's what they want to be held. They want the team to be held accountable for. This is what I signed. This is what I want to play under. So if they find that as some kind of, like, almost like disrespectful, then they might just not.
Well, I think, like, at this point, we can all assume that we're probably not going to have the same coaching staff next year that we did this year. So, well, yeah, hopefully, like, Evero stays, but like, would they be more keen to keep, like, Miners, Reisner, and Bowles and bring in a better offensive line coach? Or is it just wipe the slate clean, keep who you can, and then just replace whoever else with a new coaching staff? But really, Reisner didn't play this bad under Munchak as he did under Barry.
Well, we love Dalton personally, right? So, but the point is he, ever since his rookie season, he hasn't reached that same success level in play as he did his first year. Right. So, and that was under Mike Munchak. So I don't know. He is the one guy though that you could possibly count on taking a hometown discount just because Colorado means a lot to him.
What? And I will say, that you talk about bringing them back, like all of them back. I mean, you'd have to do some pretty serious convincing, and maybe 2 words of that is hire Mike Munchak as your offensive line coach. I mean, if that could happen, maybe you can bring, all of your pieces back, and then at that point you're running with basically the same offensive line. But I will say, I think it truly depends on the scheme and the offensive line coach, that you want to that you're going to hire, and the scheme that he wants to run. Because at that point, he may have a completely different scheme that the offensive line that's currently here, they don't fit. And so it's one of those cases where, I mean, they want to make sure that it's that to their offensive line point, they're cooking with grease, and that they're able to gel, especially with Russ.
So speaking of Mike Munchak, is he a potential head coach candidate?
No.
Or no?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
No, I would.
For us?
Yeah,
No.
us and anybody.
No.
Definitely.
I mean,
us.
it was
We fired him
it
from
was him it was him and Fangio.
Yeah, but we let him
At
go.
one point.
We didn't.
Right.
They didn't insist on keeping it. As him being part of the coaching staff, and they're certainly not going to. I can't imagine that they're going to force a new coach to take on certain pieces or require them. I mean, Evero is a no-brainer for somebody to keep if he doesn't get the head coaching job himself. But I there's no chance that he's even going to be interviewed for any head coaching jobs. I'm talking about Munchak.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people were talking about if Evero doesn't get the head coaching job, is there a head coach that could be brought in that would work with Evero to keep him on staff?
The word on the street is that he would potentially stay if Quinn is brought in, which is interesting because they are different schemes. So I don't really know how that works, but like if Quinn just like
do your thing, boy.
Then great. Then, but I don't know. I am on the 2023 Denver Broncos Chaos Tour hashtag. That is either Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, or Frank Reich, and draft Anthony Richardson. I want the chaos that would ensue. I love it.
Isn't Richardson first round talent though?
Yeah. He's really raw. Like he has he'll make Mahomesian throws that are just absolutely gorgeous, and he is also very athletic and can run with the best of them. And is 6'4". He's a monster, but you need to rein that in. And I think if you have a QB guru like a Shane Steichen or a Frank Reich, you can make something like that happen in the future. I'm not saying we cut Russ right away. Maybe we do. I don't care. That's fine. I'm not going to say the first.
Okay, Seegers.
I'm not going to say 2023 isn't going to be messy, because it will be messy regardless. Do we want to do it with sadness with Russ, or do we want to do it with a new exciting prospect who might? I mean, it'll be like, oh. And I know before you all say Drew Lock, I swear to God,
who's going to say that?
There are plenty of people, because they're going to be like, oh, we had another raw prospect. That
not out of us four, we're not.
Go watch anything of Anthony Richardson, and if you compare that to Drew Lock, you can get out.
So you and I kind of
find you, and I will.
You and I kind of talked about it on Twitter, but I still why Frank Reich over Dan Quinn.
Frank Reich is a fantastic coach. Ballard and Irsay screwed the pooch on that one. I think they panicked and they got rid of Frank Reich. He is a legitimately good coach and was turning that organization around again. And
not to mention there were some competing there were some competing ideologies within, that front office. I think, Reich wanted to hold on to Carson Wentz or something, or there were some competing, of what, the front office wanted, what Reich wanted. And he basically had no say whatsoever, with, what, as far as what he would like to do.
Well, they made him bench Matt Ryan because they didn't want him to reach any of the bonuses and or even worse, get hurt and have to pay any guaranteed salary for next year. So but then miraculously you bring in the high school coach and who makes TV appearances, and Matt Ryan's back.
Yeah. I think Frank Reich will have a job very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Won't be surprised at all.
How many head coaching jobs are going to be available in the offseason? 4, 5?
It's hard to predict.
You're
but
looking at Panthers, potentially Broncos. I'm assuming Broncos.
Actually, I would not be surprised if the Panthers held on to Wilkes. I wouldn't not be surprised.
Albright said he's done well, but he doesn't think he's done well enough that he's going to get the.
I'd say LA would be
Chargers.
Yeah. But that would be a
both.
Sean Payton, right?
Maybe both. I think you should
really think
keep
McVay retires.
I think you should keep your eye on both, and it very well could happen. I
McDaniels isn't going anywhere.
Houston really likes Lovie Smith. I mean, people just like him. I mean, I like him too.
The Colts would have a job. Obviously, the Reich's not going back to Indy, but
I swear to God, if they keep Jeff Saturday, I don't know what to say about that one.
Well, I think we're looking at 4, right?
What about?
It's more than that.
What about
Arizona? Clint might be out.
Yeah. What about the Cleveland Browns? Kevin Stefanski.
I think they give him an extra year because of the circumstances surrounding the season. But to Boggins' point, there's no chance Sean McVay is sticking around to turn the lights off of that. Be the last one there.
Plus, he'd be a really, really hot candidate.
Matthew Stafford leaves and Aaron Donald leaves, and
you got Baker Mayfield now. Whoop whoop.
He did the Sean Payton where he's just like he might where he's just like cap problem talent. Oh crap, I'm out.
No pick.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'll fall into a $25 million a year deal at Amazon.
Absolutely. On Fox, probably. Yeah.
So 100%. Speaking of the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray just tore his ACL. He is out for the year. Potentially will miss the beginning part of next year as well. What does that mean for the Broncos on Sunday? Because we might not have Wilson.
It means it's the worst game ever.
It has the possibility of being a snooze fest, and I unfortunately can say I will be at that game watching it.
Why is no one talking about the actual headline of this? Vance Joseph playing the Broncos again.
Revenge game.
Oh God.
I mean, if history, if history is shown, I mean, this would not be the first time that the Broncos have lost to a former head coach, that coached the team.
I don't think Vance is having the time of his life anymore. Just a guess.
Yeah. That's all I can say about that. I'm not really excited about this game.
Do we see more of this last game's offense, or are we seeing more of the can't score 16 points to save our lives?
Who knows?
Russell is
playing, right?
I think we win this one handily, quite honestly.
Okay.
You do? Okay.
Okay.
It could.
Our defense is still there.
I've given up predicting this team.
I'm not asking for scores. Just what is it going to look like?
Hey, let the record show I didn't put any money on that prediction. It was just words.
Bill says 10-9. You didn't say who would win.
I will say the Broncos are definitely the better. It might be the better team going into this weekend, but as we all know, the Broncos have also disappointed us for this entire season, and I'm already on record that the Broncos won't win any game the rest of the way. So I should probably stick to my guns and stick to it and say that the Cardinals will beat the Broncos on Sunday.
You know who? Something else you should stick to is your former QB1 ranked. It has now moved over to the Cardinals. Don't think he'll play.
No, I don't think he'll play. But QB2 Carson Strong.
No, you had him as QB1. Stop it.
I did some maneuvering
right
now. With Malik Willis and Carson Strong.
No, he's doing maneuvering now too. I can see it happening.
Stop
your
All right, so that's good.
No, I was just saying I don't think he'll play, but it's just a note. I just wanted to...
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think that's probably about going to do it for us. Nobody wants to predict the score. I don't either. I'm scared to death of what this game is going to look like. We do appreciate everybody joining us on the show today. Everybody in the chat, everybody not in the chat. I don't know what's wrong with you, but we love you too. Make sure you tune in to all of our other shows. We have shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then the neighborhood on Sundays or anytime the Broncos are playing. So make sure you check that out too. All of our handles are down in the description if you want to follow us on Twitter. Most of us are a pretty good follow, so go ahead and check it out. Other than Glenn, he's really boring.
No, you really don't.
Careful. Just be careful. I do have a dark side.
Yeah, and be careful if you follow Mario. He might say he'll stab you. So just throwing that out there for everybody. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.